All right. Hello. Today we're going to be going over memes. Uh, Me with Deacon Quaxley up here in the corner. We are going to be talking about basically something that we tend to come late to, which is the medium in which we articulate the faith and how we, as a church, seem to be behind the ball on like a lot of things outside of maybe a few private organizations that are really good. So, in this case, we're going to be talking about memes. So we're spreading the faith through memes. And like, what is a meme? So a meme is uh, it's an image that typically corresponds to expressing a particular context-related item with something that's being said. And there's typically a punchline, and like that's without showing memes, like that's kind of what it is. But like it's um but the idea of um talking through memes is important because currently in our culture, we have a the way we express things is through images and words on those images to correspond to something happening. And we have a whole bunch of them. And I'm going to go through a few of them just to kind of show you what I mean by that. So yeah, let's do that first. Because memes are hard. Like there's no like uniform to what memes are. It's just kind of a general statement that I gave. So let me quickly pop up some memes, and I'm sure you've seen many of these. Sorry, 1 second. Uh, okay, so let's move into it. So you have something like this where it's like your brain, childlike wonder, memento mori. Okay, there's plenty of ways you can take this, but for a lot of people, it's kind of how we're called to be as Catholics, right? Like we look at um, the faith through childlike wonder, but also we remember death, right? Like so, like that's kind of a conflict for a lot of people to deal with, and that's what that's supposed to represent. Um, let's see another one. People are just making memes, but it's to point to specific realities given the current context in which we live in. So obviously right now we deal with credit, like how we pay. I just used a credit card this morning. I'm sure you used a credit card to pay for things recently. So this is playing on the fact that if Noah had credit during the time of just before the time of the flood, how that may play out. And so it just speaks to, it's very jovial. It's not supposed to be very let's just say hardlined. They can be, but like for the most part, memes are supposed to be of a comedic nature, and that's why people like them, is because it typically doesn't take long to state what they are, and but uh, you get a lot of meaning out of the context here. Uh, Sorry, just as the Saints would have wanted. Okay, um, but it's. Yeah, so like there's plenty of them. Like young Catholics, can we please attend the traditional Latin Mass without you trying to suppress it in Vatican? Best I can do is anime. So like it's very like you have memes that play to empathy, that like, all right, so like this is clearly empathetic towards the group of people who want to go to the TLM and not be suppressed. And then an anime icon came out. Uh so so yeah, and it's really, they're supposed to be funny, but at the same time, like it's a way of expressing one's feelings about a situation, but also there are ways in which you can talk about things that may not be easily brought up otherwise. So an example I have is, let's see. So yeah, so this was a much older. This came from like a year ago, but I got a lot of back and forth with ortho bros, as we call them online. The Bishop of Rome isn't the boss of us. My hat is bigger than yours. And so um, the hello there, Solixter. Oh, you're from Europe. Nice to, yeah. All right, so we're hitting all the continents. We have America, So North America, we have Australia, and now we definitively have Europe. So thank you. Glad to hear. So but like you get, so like what is this doing? Obviously, this is playing on the part of approaching the subject of the Orthodox with Catholics. And obviously there's a domination, this is a Catholic post, right? Like, because it's showing that the hat of the Pope is bigger than those of the bishops that are not Rome. So it's playing on that. But like what's great is the people who typically will respond. So you'll get two responses: either vitriol, which obviously like people will do anyways when you bring up the subject, or people that are reasonable and are able to then have a conversation. Um, like, or you'll see like something like this where it's like, very dishonest of you to show the simplest hat possible an Orthodox priest could wear. And then like there's a conversation that we had back and forth on that. And we went into the different parts of Orthodox attire in terms of like what they wear. And so it creates an avenue of discussion, even though it may come off as jarring or disruptive. Typically, I found that when it comes to memes, people, if the meme isn't outright like terrible, like where you're clearly putting someone down in the worst possible way, you're able to start conversations that way. Let's see. So yeah, leading leading to the meme we saw. Yeah. Um, uh, let's see. Superior hats can eat bacon, drink coffee, and alcohol. The true religion should be so yeah. Let's see. There's another one I wanted to bring up. So my wife has a Catholic meme page. So I say it's not really Catholic meme page. It's not a Catholic meme page. But a substantial number of videos are Catholic memes. And so um you may talk about Zelda, you may have like Zelda memes, and then the next one is Catholic memes. And this creates a very interesting way of bringing in people who are not Catholic to the discussion, or maybe nominally Catholic to the discussion, because you end up getting just a number of comments about the memes from people who otherwise wouldn't see them. Like they may not be on Catholic Twitter, so they don't see them. But like, hey, they saw a Catholic meme channel, or I'm sorry, a Catholic meme video in relation to in relation to a Zelda meme video from the same person. And so, or not just Zelda memes, but like cat memes, random memes. Like the way this channel is being done, that we're doing it, because I'm helping her with doing this, is we're doing basically in every other, where you have Catholic memes and then you have a more secular, neutral thing going on. And the Catholic memes, like those videos, get way more like chatter than any video. I think outside of like one or two of my videos on Modern Papist, I get there's way more chatter in this. And it's typically from a stance of like, it's very easy to talk to people when their first exposure to the conversation is comedy. And so like, talking about veils, for example, like this meme here, let's see if I can blow it up. Oh no, it went smaller. Okay. So it's How to Talk to Women 101, and it's Where's Your Head Covering? It's one of my favorite memes, because it's clearly playing on the fact that like veils are a thing. And it's suggesting that the guy is like, his only experience, or at least his standard, is like talking to women about their attire. So arguably an incel in that capacity. But the funny the funny thing is that it speaks to a bigger truth within the faith, like what's going on, which is there are veils that happen, that people have, um, that this is clearly not the way of talking to women. And so, um, it and then the rest of the memes kind of go in a similar line, that are all Catholic oriented, or you may talk about, like, say, specific doctrine like Nestorianism, or like maybe why you like Santa as a child, bringing presents, and then why you like Santa now and he's punching Arius in the face. Like, there are memes like that, and they're hilarious. Um, so yeah, so having a dedicated patron saint of memes would be amazing. I mean, that would be so it would be so I would argue, like, the whole thing about this though is that it's a medium, right? It's a, like, do we have a dedicated Catholic saint to the media in general, or do we have a dedicated Catholic saint to newspapers, parchment, TVs? Like, do we have a saint that's dedicated to that, or do we just have a dedicated saint who works with the media and passing that on? Um, maybe that'll be one of Blessed Carlo's patronages. Yeah, I mean, like, that would be very interesting. Because, like, I mean, memes are, they can be incredibly like, they could have a great deal of information, like basically a paragraph, but they could also be like one sentence. Like, it's crazy how, like, when go like my wife and I doing the meme page, like, it's kind of great. Like, some, we group up and we get a whole bunch of people's memes and we do that, but we also make our own. And so when we put them together, like, it's really funny just to see how people react to it. And uh the Catholic memes, again, by far, like, when you look at our channel, like, this isn't to advertise our channel so much as to just explain a reality that we've noticed, is that when you look at our channel, it's really my wife's channel, but I help her, but it's the Catholic memes, Zelda memes, and then Catholic memes, Catholic memes, Catholic memes, Catholic memes, Catholic memes. And they have a pretty good amount of responses in the comment section. They're not, like, it's very rare. Like, these are the early, whatever. I'm not to get too much into it, like, because I'm not trying to advertise this, but it's just like, I guess the point that I'm trying to get at is that memes are an effective way in which we can spread the faith. And for some people, they come off too harsh. Like, they think that they like the one with the hat, which is actually right here. Like people have a problem with it. Or like a beard. It's like the same joke, right? Like, it's a very, very similar joke where it's like, get a beard and then shave. Like, it plays on our differences in a funny way, and that people are then able to have and cultivate a conversation with. Because I get a lot of Orthodox people who are in the comment sections, and then we have a back and forth about, like, a number of things. And this was actually, like, the idea of memes, like a meme channel, was inspired by a friend of mine, who he himself facilitates a meme forum on Facebook. And there, uh, he has what's he have? So there are, I think, about 100,000 people that are in that meme channel. It's like saint posting memes. I can't remember it right now, but it's a really good one, because, like, you have people who legitimately will come to the conversation, and they'll say, I'm not lying. Like, I read this one time, like, I came to the faith through memes, and that, like, blew me away, because, like, and he just explained, like, why. He's like, someone put, like, a very Protestant perspective in a meme, and it kind of showed how ridiculous it was. Like, there's a bunch of, like, for example, like, Sola Scriptura has like, there's a whole bunch of memes on Sola Scriptura, and they do show just how ridiculous sola scriptura is, and how you have to clearly have more than sola scriptura to guide the faith. But the poignant part was the fact that this guy, this random person, was interacting with random people on the internet, and God worked through that to get him to start his journey to become Catholic. And so, like, by all means, like, these are not going to be things that you convert people on the spot, right? Like, this is not going to be something that where you throw a meme or a series of memes at people and they're going to convert to Catholicism because the memes are just so good and funny, right? Like, that's just not going to happen. What's going to happen is, like, every seed, it gets planted. Like, oh, well, that's, like, for the case of that guy, it was playing, like, it was making a mockery of a Protestant understanding in a way that wasn't outright disrespectful to Protestants themselves. And for us who try to evangelize our neighbors in a very direct way, that is an incredibly hard balance to do, where you're not offending your neighbor in a way that or like you're not offending, you're not arguing against their position that they hold very dearly without also accidentally, like, harming them. Like that is to say, they take it personally and they don't know how to respond after they take it personally, or like it shuts the conversation down. And so, like, memes are kind of like, just like with a lot of comedy, are a great way of kind of sidestepping that whole circumstance and facilitating a conversation that could lead to a more in-depth conversation, or could just by itself lead to critical thinking on the part of the person who reads it, and then choosing to do more research. And that I'll try to comment in the comment section after this and tell you which Facebook group it is, because it is like it has been very eye-opening to me to see that happen, and then continue to see it happen, or to have, like, people explain the faith in a way, like, because, sorry, I know I'm kind of like just explaining like what memes are, and it kind of takes away some of the fun of the memes, but it's to see people learn from memes concepts they have a hard time with, but illustrated in such a way that, I mean, basically they're just really good illustrations, right? Like, they're not like very hard to understand what they are, but they're illustrations that point to a concept in a lot of cases, and it's kind of been eye-opening, or not just eye-opening, but jaw-dropping to me, that people have come out and stated that this has directly affected their life in such a significant way. Nobody's said that on my page, or I'm sorry, my wife's page. Again, I help her with it, so that's why I'm using it, and I'm talking about it on my YouTube channel. So I'm kind of mixing up the ownership, but yeah, the whole thing here is just to emphasize, like, memes are a good thing. Don't be afraid of them. Don't think that, as long as they're not too harsh, because, like, there are some pretty hard ones that I think people they're abusing the medium, where they're just too direct, and they're meant to offend. Like, if your intent is to offend someone with the meme, not in the sense of like offending them with truth, but offending them to make them feel like crap, okay, well, like, you're doing it wrong. Hey, Robert Tales, nice to see you again. Yeah, you've got some comments on there. Yes, it's our channel. Handshake and all. I guess my cow. Okay. So, I'm gonna try to find that really quick. Because I actually don't have that. Give me a second as I take a look for it, because it is really funny. Let's see. But it's a oh, come on. I just think my wife, this is like one of my favorite memes my wife did. Um Cowbell. Oh, you know what? Here it is. Sorry, one second. I know this is like totally throwing people off. But I just find, I don't know, I just find this one really funny, and I really want to share it with you because it's funny. Where is it? There it is. So here we go. NO music directors be like, needs more cowbell. If you guys ever watched the SNL skit, like, this is hilarious. Like, and especially given the state of some churches, like, it creates, like, obviously we go to a Novus Ordo, and so this is something where we're kind of poking fun at our own type of situation, but it's also because we recognize it's a problem. Because you'll have some people who'll be like, well, why are you saying that? Like, and it's like, well, because some of the things in which we like allow in the mass are kind of ridiculous, and probably shouldn't be there. So Robert Tales, memes are also great to lighten the mood and remind us of our Lord, Our Lady, faith, church, etc. throughout the day when technology is so common nowadays. Yeah, and it creates like a grounding, like, because it's like I said, like a lot of it is just comedy, and so it lightens the mood and it creates some profound, sometimes some profound insight. Other times it's just, in my opinion, like one of the best ways to start a conversation is to use a meme and use that as the beginning of that conversation, so that there's context involved, that, you know, like, people don't need to have, besides the fact that they may be confused about what NO means, they're going to understand what you're getting at talking about music directors and cowbell, given the state of the for him sandwich in a lot of the Novus Ordo masses. Let me think about what I've seen. Oh yeah, a high schooler rapping at the altar in place of the homily. Okay, well, that's pretty intense, and wow. so so yeah, clearly not. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, obviously it shouldn't happen. Um, but yeah, this isn't. But did he have? But did he have cow? So like the yeah, I guess I just wanted to point out, like, you know, especially in relation to modern papists, and meanwhile, we've gotten a lot more conversation about the faith on meanwhile than my page, and that may, or modern papist, and that may be because I'm small, or I don't, you know, my content's not that great or whatever, and that's fine, but it's very interesting to see how people will have a discussion with you once they're laughing, and, you know, because there's people, like, I guarantee, like, you look at some of the comments, and I guarantee you there are some people, they didn't expect to get into a conversation about religion uh as deep as we ended up getting it, because some of those comments, we had, you know, I'll respond in the comments, and we'll get pretty deep in terms of the answers and direction, and it's really weird because I kind of expected this channel to do that. But I'm doing it more so on that channel, and it's, you know, it's been cordial for the most part. Now, you're not always going to get people who are, you know, obviously going to be showing charity when they're having conversations, and they'll be sticklers. but that's also why it's what is it? Whenever someone is clearly acting outside of charity, not because they made a good point, but specifically because they've done something out of charity or not in charity. I think that's the better way of saying that. I'll delete the comment and maybe the thread because I don't want to facilitate anybody doing like having like those comments tend to proliferate and create more comments that are in line with that intention, and I try to like snip it in the bud like as soon as it happens, um because that's not okay. Like that's not how fruitful conversations are going to happen. um we can wrap to eventually. um So yeah, it started with the high schoolers and their moms processing in front of the priest, and then the moms did the sprinkling with holy water since it was Lent. Oh man, I didn't expect it to get worse. Okay. Their Lenten church was set up to have wooden pallets behind the altar. Kids had finger painted the altar cloth. Wow, it keeps like this is crazy, man. Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Papist is the one that moderates and argues in the comments because I'll just cry or be mean back. No, no, no. Okay, so like it's really funny with my wife because she'll go on to Reddit. So she'll say that about YouTube, but then she goes on Reddit. And it's like you're on Reddit. Like it's worse. What are you doing? Like um now flock, don't be bored. Jesus Christ is Lord. My rhymes can't falter because I be at the altar. Tell you. Okay. Okay. So that's pretty bad. And so like just to back away from the memes for a second, the or I guess because I'm not gonna I don't really have anything else to say because I think we've exhausted most of what to say. But the the crazy thing is like there are terrible Novus Ordos out there, and I understand like not everybody can be blessed with having a priest like we have at St. Basil's, and how we have an incredibly reverent structure, and it didn't happen overnight. Like it took some work, but like this idea that you just have these priests that will um they're either going off old work like woodwork like it's just what's passed down to them from the previous priest, or they're inventing things and there's no accountability, and it's like really weird how bishops don't crack down on that. Like man, like certain bishops you go ad orientem and they come down hard, and and that may not be even something that's like they're able to actually enforce, um given the rules of the church, and some canon lawyers going to the law. Like there are actually courts in the Vatican canon lawyers go to and fight on behalf of like priests in regards to their bishops doing that. And so like I don't know the rulings of that yet, but like it's really weird when you have kind of these, let's just say, staples of tradition, where like you're receiving on the tongue, you're you want to do ad orientem, you want to promote altar rails, you want to basically do everything that happened in the 1962 missal, but applying it to the Novus Ordo. But then boom, like there's some crackdown that comes, there's some like excuse that's given, and it's like really frustrating because there's people who like, I mean, the bishop allows us to do this. You know what I mean? Like he lets us do this. But there are some bishops who don't. And they'll crack down on things that I don't even know if they can like justly crack down on given the laws of the church. But it's like this example, like what you just gave, Mark, is like I don't know where that was. Maybe you can tell me in some other like in some way outside of here, because I don't want to post it which church you're talking about directly. I don't like doing that. Um, because like we live really close to each other. And so it would be really like to have that experience of a priest doing that, or like what recently happened for us is a priest um, had baptized a baby and took that baby and used it to do the sign of the cross for the final blessing. Like use the baby as the sign of the cross for the final blessing, and then place the baby on the altar. Um, I don't think that's I think that's a problem. But and I did send into the bishop stating what was happening. But it's just another example of like these really weird practices in the NO uh, uh, that don't make like they're not reasonable. They don't make sense, and that's people's example. All right, so Mark seems to be putting up some juicy things. Like, 1 second. Just look up. Mr. Papist, listen to what he says because he made the apostles into anime. I don't. Okay, like I know what you're getting at, but I am at mass. Oh, mass be tardy, and he started a Catholic party. Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Damien. That's funny. Um, um, wow, dude. Like this is some intense. Okay, so now we've turned into like a bit. All right, whatever. Some people are gonna say black pilling, but my parents initially wanted to baptize me there 25 years ago, and the priest told my dad, "You don't really believe this kid is full of sin, right?" He walked out because the priest denied original sin. I mean, I would too, in the sense of like if a priest is not like, I mean, this kind of goes down to like there was a video I did where it talked about if your priest is not spiritually nurturing, like you really should probably find another priest and another parish, because you want what's best for not just you but your family. And so like your dad acting that way, like responding that way, I don't think that's outside of the like I think that's completely fine. Like if I found out a priest wasn't like sincere in his belief, I don't want him doing the baptism. Like I'd want the baptism to happen as soon as possible, but like um we're supposed to do it within 2 to 3 weeks according to canon law. But like uh this idea of like the priest doesn't the priest may not even have the intention of like, if he doesn't believe in original sin, he may not even have the intention of baptizing in the within the church. And that's what's needed is like as part of the form. I think it's the form where the intention of the person baptizing still needs to be that, even if it's an atheist, that they're baptized within the like in the church. um so that's crazy to think of. Uh oh wow, god. Yeah, and that grant them like because they need it. Yeah, and so yeah, I'm not trying to make this. I know it's totally started jovial, and now it's like black pilled. But remember, like all black pills are just white pills waiting to be washed. So let's see. Mark bringing down the mood on the memes video. Hey, you can go see those memes on Meanwhile. It's in the description. So let's see. Okay, so I haven't read that, and no, because there are certain ramifications of if you're going to become a bishop that like that's becoming a bishop has a lot of authority and power and response. I mean, if you have authority, you have responsibility. I don't want that responsibility, and it's I know I'm taking this seriously, but that's part of the joke. So like I know it's not even like a possibility. But it's for those people who think that is the clear like what's going to happen. Um, that's a very weird thing to think about. um, just the idea that you can elect your own, or like bishop. Now, like I have heard of bishops being removed, in like they've been moved from certain areas because the people literally threw them out. But we're talking like in the early church, like 3, 4, 500s. Um, so that would be very interesting. Um, uh, let's see. So you should pray for that. Because I think, yeah, I would definitely say pray for that, because I think that that's don't campaign for it. I don't know. You can't really campaign for it. I haven't read the documents, and like I typically don't talk about that stuff here, just because it is too new, and like I don't want to just add speculation and like idle words. Like that is something that's like always on my mind, like just not to waste people's time with speculation from somebody who knows some theology but is not a proper theologian. Like I haven't had training. Um, and I'm not going to talk about how the church is like. I stay away from a lot of Pope Francis stuff, like the Mayan Mass, for example. Like I stay away from it. Not because I don't have an opinion, but because I'm not the type of person that should be giving my opinion in public. Um, just because it. I don't think it's prudent. Um, no, I know it absolutely would be. Um, um, so part of the problem that when it comes to, and this will be like the last thing because I have to get going. Saturdays are not as freeing as Friday nights. But like the idea of um someone in the position who has a sincere heart to do it has two different obstacles. The first obstacle is the hive mind of the current bishops, like USCCB. For whatever reason, even with like really strong bishops, like there's a high like there's a mindset that seems to happen. And like even like when you look at like the pandemic, you had what is it, Bishop Strickland of Tyler. He was the last one to relent on like um on closing up shop for the sacraments, for public sacraments for the Eucharist. He withheld, he stood as much as he could, but he still ended up getting like he still ended up stopping, right? Like that was still the problem. Um, and I don't understand like why he did, because like in fact I don't understand why any of the bishops stopped doing that. Because like when you look at like Saint Charles Borromeo and like what he dealt with, the he when the plagues were happening, you know what he didn't do? He didn't back away, but he came up with creative solutions to deal with it. Um, Specifically with Charles Borromeo, what he ended up doing is they had patens that were like, I want to say like 12 foot long. And what they would do is they would put the Eucharist on the paten and they would present it to the person at the house. And because he ended up holding mass in the public square. And so he's like, well, I still need to like feed these people the sacrament. They're still suffering, but they still need the light of Christ. They still need to consume God. And so that's what he did. And so it's like this idea that our church, with our technology and what we know we're able to do, how we know more intimately how diseases work. The fact we couldn't be creative in how we distributed communion and held mass is an absolute failure on continuing the sacraments. Like but like when it came to like so that was with regards to the Eucharist, but then you had like, for example, I think it was the Chaldeans that were the first ones here. They started doing drive-through confessions where you would drive in your car and they just have a priest outside. And so like that was really effective, and it caught on into the bigger part of the church. And so because that happened here first. And so yeah, like that was being creative with what they had. And so but like getting back to it, it's like that's the mind, that was the first part of the mindset. The second thing that they have to deal with is all the like religious CEO crap that from an administrative point of view that the bishop has to use and deal with. And so because like in the Archdiocese of Detroit, we have like basically a small bureaucracy for the Archdiocese, and the bishop oversees everything technically. And so like that's kind of like a big problem, because instead of focusing on evangelizing, supporting the priests to a degree that historically they used to, they can't now because of what's currently expected of them from like where they sit and given the processes that are currently involved. And so I have a lot of sympathy for some, for a lot, well, actually not more than some, a lot of bishops in that regard, because they simply don't have the time given what's needed of them. Like, are you going to talk to your priest when you have to fill out paperwork? I'm using a very incredibly simple example, but you got to fill out paperwork to make sure that like $5 million goes to the homeless. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's and you have to go through that red tape because of like how it's structured in the government. And so it's like I understand that. Like, again, like whether or not that is an actual thing they do, like is something else. I know they have administrative aides, but they still have to talk to them. They still have to, their delegation still has to be followed up by them, and not simply just, well, you do this and I'm never going to talk to you again about it. Like they have to talk to them on a regular basis so that, things move along. So, but yeah, that's me just explaining that whole thing. Anyways, so pray for Father Eric to become a bishop. Like that's what I'm getting at. So interesting enough, I ended up having a conversation with a friend of mine who's from Texas. He goes to the Anglican Ordinariate down in Texas, around Houston. And we spoke about how there's 7 dioceses in Michigan, but Ireland, where his family's from and part of my family's from, has like 60. And Michigan, in relation to population, has 10 million people. Ireland has 6 million. We have 7 dioceses. They have 60. And they've had 60 since I think the 1100s. So the attention in which their bishops are able to give to the laity is much greater than here. And like on average. And so like, like my archbishop looks over about a million Catholics. I don't think any bishop over there looks at more than like 300,000. So like it's kind of like I don't even know that offhand. Like I'm just, because there's 60 dioceses, I'm somewhat assuming a uniform distribution. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. But I agree with you. I actually think that we should have more bishops. I do not think that we should have less bishops. I don't think we need metropolitan areas like how we used to, simply because the way technology has allowed our ability to apply subsidiarity in an appropriate way. Because at the end of the day, the bishop is in charge of his diocese and his priests as a matter of subsidiarity, as a matter of point, and overseeing that group of people. Whereas like overseeing a million Catholics by one guy, and with us, like, what is it? I think we have like 168 priests, which is just not enough for like, it's just not enough for like how many Catholics we have. So, okay. All right, probably not easy to well, you don't want to consolidate them. You want to split them up. So that's a lot easier to do than grouping them together. So just because, like, for example, like we have within the Archdiocese of Detroit, we have, I think it's 4 regional bishops that oversee the different like sectors of the archdiocese. And so, like, even with, like, we have the archbishop, and then like kind of like you split off, and you have the bishops, and they oversee the priests, but the priests always have a right to the archbishop because the archbishop is where they get their authority. But the regional bishops are there to enforce like norms, and to be there for help, and to be, you know what I mean, like they fill in for the archbishop at the permission of the archbishop. But like it kind of creates like a dynamic where you're like, okay, well, why isn't this just happening? Like, why don't we just have 4 sectors within the Archdiocese of Detroit? Why don't we just split it up? Um, like, and not just Archdiocese of Detroit. It could be the Diocese of Lansing. It could be the Diocese of Kalamazoo and Grand Rapids, Marquette. Like, I'm not just singling out my own diocese, my own archdiocese. It could literally be any of them. It's just a matter of how we go about doing that, and being most effective. But dang it, we were here to talk about memes, and so I'm gonna leave with I'm gonna leave with at least one here. 1 second, I need to find it because I did not have this prepped. I kind of did this like on the spot. But this one got so many responses because I put it at the very end, and it just hit people, man. It just hit people. Um, okay, here, let's do this. Also, up until the 90s, Ireland was like 95% Catholic, with nearly 50, 60 of those attending church every week. I'm sure when we consider a few more years ago, 60 dioceses made sense. Yeah. And it's really unfortunate what happened. But this was so I'm gonna end with this meme. So this is the last meme, and again, this one got a lot of conversation simply because it spoke to the concept of what we're talking about. I'll end it with this, and thanks for joining me this Saturday. Obviously, I wasn't able to do this yesterday, but I will still continue to do it Monday and Friday at 9. So I'll talk to you guys later.